Hello, and welcome to Dyslexia Devoted, the podcast dedicated to building awareness, understanding, and strategies to help those with dyslexia. I'm your host, Lisa Parnello, dyslexia therapist and founder of Parnello Education Services. Join me as we dive into today's episode of Dyslexia Devoted. Hello there, and welcome to episode 105 of Dyslexia Devoted. Today, I am so excited, first of all, to even have time to be chatting with you. While I did spend my Friday afternoon in a courtroom as a potential juror, I thankfully was not selected, and it was a case I emotionally probably could not have handled because there's a reason people get arrested, and it's usually not for nice things. And thankfully, I was not picked, so I get to keep teaching and supporting kids this summer, and I get to keep talking to you guys this summer through the podcast. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Today, number 105 is all about supporting teachers and educators. This summer, there is a theme of teacher trainings that I am doing. So while this podcast is dedicated to both parents and educators, this summer I'm doing a lot of work supporting educators. So if you are on the Dyslexia Devoted newsletter, then a lot of the emails this month are really about teacher trainings. So it always will kind of ebb and flow in phases as to who I'm supporting the most. And since teachers don't work directly with students during summers, a lot of them at least, or they're tutoring like me, they have some extra time to get some meaningful professional development. So that's part of what I am participating in this summer. So this episode is actually all about looping you in on what some of those items are. So if you are an educator who would like to participate, this episode is really for you guys to learn different ways that you can support educators. And if you are a parent, these are some great opportunities that you can always send on to your child's teacher so that they can learn more about helping kids with learning differences, because there are far more kids with learning differences than there are with IEPs in a classroom. And all teachers could benefit from learning the science of reading and things like that. So the first one that has already started is the Back to School Audio Summit. And in the Audio Summit, each month they're releasing different recorded podcast episodes that you can listen to as your professional development to learn a little bit more and to get you started for the next school year. So the teacher summer talks have already started. And so if you listened to the June ones, the July ones are either out now or will be out very, very soon. And then that way each month from June, July, and August, there are different episodes that come out, and there's an all-access pass as well. The next one is Emily Gibbons from the Literacy Nest has the Building Readers for Life annual conference. So I'm presenting in that one as well, and that one is all about customizing instruction based on student profiles. So that one is one that I'm excited to participate in. Anything Emily touches turns into something fantastic. She is such a hard worker and has found ways to support kids and educators and everything in between. And it's been so great to get to know Emily over these last couple of years and to be asked to participate in this year's annual conference. And last but not least, another one you might want to participate in is the Back to School Science of Reading Summit, which is all about helping educators utilize the science of reading. For my session, it's going to be a Dyslexia for Beginners class. So I will make sure in the show notes here as well as on my website. So anytime you listen to an episode on here, it's always going to be parnelloeducation.com/episode and then the digits of whatever episode it is. And that will always take you to the show notes page. So if you know what episode number it is and you know I've referenced something, it'll always be on there. Or if you are on the Dyslexia Devoted newsletter, these links will always be sent to you in my Thursday newsletter updates. So why is it so important to help educators to continue to learn about dyslexia and learning differences and the science of reading? Well, honestly, it's because so many of us never learned it in college. I have 2 different teaching credentials, and I never learned the way I teach now. It is something I had learned on top of it, getting extra certifications and things beyond my teaching credential. And I can really see a difference. Last week, I had 2 adorable little girls come in. They were from the same elementary school, and they were siblings. But there was massive differences between the reading abilities and spelling abilities of the younger one and the older one. And I noticed that, and I was a little surprised because they very clearly had very, very different gaps, which didn't quite make sense if they came from the same school and were getting the same instruction. It turns out the school had changed their instruction. The kind of instruction the older child got was not based on the science of reading and was not as high quality and good, and she had a lot of gaps. And then the younger child went to the same school after they had changed their reading program and how much better their reading instruction has gotten. I actually couldn't even finish her baseline assessment because she did so well. She never hit the threshold on a few things. And she actually surpassed her older sister, and by a lot, when she's actually several years younger, which is not typically expected for a child who doesn't have a massive learning difference. A child 4 years younger than them should not get a significantly better score on the phonics skills. But that's what good instruction does. It changes how much progress a child can make and how much they can learn. Potential is often one of those things that can be tapped into or not tapped into. So when educators know how to help kids with learning differences, and really to help all kids learn how to read, because the kind of reading instruction that is absolutely essential for kids with learning differences is also great reading instruction for all kids. It's not going to harm the other kids. In fact, we would have so many better readers and spellers in our society if everybody got this great quality instruction. It's not limited to those with learning differences. So any way that we can help educators build a repertoire, build up all of their tools in their toolbox, because every once in a while you try all the things that have always worked and then one day the trick doesn't work. So if we can give teachers as many tools as possible to pull from in order to help a child succeed, that means that no matter how challenging of a student, they're going to be able to make that connection and help that child really unlock the power of reading. We also have to think about what does it look like as a child gets older? Because sometimes some of these poor reading strategies that work really well, like look at the first letter, look at the picture, look at all of the words around it, a lot of times those strategies work really well when they're younger, but that doesn't work so much when they get older. In fact, I've actually been asked to work with education specialists that work with college students at a nearby university because they need some strategies for these students who can't utilize those strategies anymore. They were taught, like, how do I guess this word based on the words around it? But when you're reading a textbook full of words you've never heard of before, you can't guess that word based on context. Or if you've never learned Greek origin words, then you don't know what these things mean. So you have to go back and reread things all the time because you don't really know what those word parts mean because they seem very different from most of our Latin-based words that we have in our language. But if you're taking a science major and you're going to become a doctor, those Latin-based words don't help you as much as the Greek-based words do. And so if we can teach our educators that there is a difference in the kinds of words that we are using and where they come from and how we might pronounce them if they come from here versus there, that can really help us to help our kids at all different ages. I often say kids, but really it can reference anybody from the little kindergartners that walk through my door through a kid going into college, because they all need the same reading skills. Reading is a life skill. It is something you need for the rest of your life. It is not a temporary thing. So if we can learn how to address the issues as they come up at any age, and we can teach our educators how to address those issues, then we will have much more successful humans who can do amazing things with their lives. So I'm so excited that this summer I get to do a lot of that. So I'm working with educators that work with college kids. I'm working with training some teachers right before they go back to school and helping train up their teachers to be ready to teach kids using a new curriculum that's following the science of reading and how they can implement it in the real world. Because sometimes when you get a new curriculum, it's like, pull out this box and follow the directions. But if you're really teaching in a classroom, sometimes it's not as easy as that sounds. And we really want to know, how do we meaningfully use this curriculum? Because curriculums only take you so far. What really takes you far is teacher training. When teachers know how to help kids, it doesn't matter what curriculum they have, because they will know how to do it the right way, even if they're not given the great materials. And yes, we do want the correct curriculums. We do want good strategies being taught, but we also need the teachers to know how to use those strategies, even if they are handed a crummy curriculum. So to recap, if you are interested and you are an educator, I guess technically you can sign up even if you're not an educator. It just applies more to you if you are an educator. Here are the 3 different summits and conferences that I am participating in that you are welcome to join. There are a few other things I'm doing in teacher trainings I mentioned in this episode that are not public. So here are the 3 ones that you could do. There is the Back to School Audio Summit, that different podcast episodes are released every month, plus there is a VIP pass. So that's one option. The other option is the Building Readers for Life annual conference. So I will be presenting at that one. Just to clarify, it is a virtual conference with on-demand classes that you can attend. So it's something that you can do on your own schedule. And I believe you have until the end of October, actually, to watch all of the sessions. And that one does give continuing education credits, which is a fantastic thing I know that a lot of teachers need in order to either maintain their certificates or sometimes to move themselves up the pay scale and things like that. And last but not least is the Back to School Science of Reading Summit. And that one is at the end of July. I believe it's happening for just 3 days at the end of July, at the very, very last couple days of the month. So I may have to link that one later, and that way you have access to it. I don't know if they're quite ready for everyone to register just yet, but since this was kind of the theme of today's episode, I decided I would go ahead and mention it. And so those things are all coming up. So if you are an educator and want to extend your learning this summer, there are a lot of really great options. And if you are a parent, I have a little plan in the works for a workshop for you guys as well, presented by me. So I'm thinking of doing a live Dyslexia for Beginners workshop, and I would love if you guys could attend. So if you are interested in that, I would love to hear from you. Let me know. And that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to learn even more about dyslexia, check out parnelloeducation.com/courses. See you next time.